Still working on the intro. Uh, Welcome to A Toy Kind of Mood, episode 157, our favorite toy photography. So, we have been trying to get a little experimental with the show, just a bit, not 1970s experimental, uh, but having fun with the show and seeing what, we have Terradrome. Uh, we do a lot with the customizers, but on that same notice, on that same note, there we go. We don't get the good customizers without the great photography. So, for that, we have our very own at Toy Optics, David Speck. What's up, amigo?
How's it going?
And then he's like, "Nice to be here again." And then from ACBA, our very good for me. I'm not gonna say guest of the show because he's been on here quite a few times. Fabio, what's up, dude?
Hey, what's up, boys?
All right, so as I open up my soda to keep me awake because it's been a long day.
I got my 7 p.m. coffee over here. You love to see it,
Dude. It's funny you bring up coffee. My wife actually asked me how much coffee she's like, I couldn't do it. I couldn't be a 2 to 3 pot a guy. I'm like, I was 2 to 3 pots. One of my jobs, especially working graveyard shift. Yeah, was not healthy. I had the heart of a hummingbird.
Depends on the coffee. If it's the one I make, which is the Cafe Bustelo, oof, that's rough if you're doing 2 to 3 pots. Something a little lighter. Yeah, we can get
mine was like just the morning blend, but oof. I think that there actually was one time where I was on my second pot and I was telling her a story and my wife just stopped me and she goes, "Okay, wait. Did you do a bump?" I'm like, no, just coffee. She's, how many pots? I'm like, this is number 2.
Probably like a party.
Ugh. You give me enough coffee, you can't tell the difference. All right. So, Spec, you are literally a director of photography or cinematographer. What's your official term?
Cinematographer.
Okay. So
If you see most of my credits on IMDb, if you go way back, I'm listed as a second assistant cameraman or sometimes a first assistant cameraman. And then if you go within the last, 7-8 years, you'll see most of my credits are as a camera operator, which is what I do the bulk majority of the time. But then I do work as a director of photography, a lot of times on lower budget or non-union, or this movie I just came off of, I was the B camera operator, but I would also split off and I would do inserts and additional footage. And so cinematographer is sort of a catch-all term for the camera department.
I think I expect trail dog like yeah. So you have your amazing photography, Fabio. I've seen your work. You do amazing work behind the lens. So what we're gonna
and in front of it, I'm told,
and in front. You know what? Here's the thing. By all means, pitch yourself. I will give you a solo at the end of this to just pitch yourself to whoever's watching.
Well, I mean, to provide a little bit of context, I did cut my teeth in the ACPA community. It really was what brought me back to collecting. It wasn't just returning to collecting, but collecting with the intention to shoot photography. So this would have been like 2013, over 10 years now, when the ACPA community was starting to come up, and Instagram. It was already like pretty established on Facebook, but kind of was starting to make the move onto Instagram. And that was where I kind of found it. And I realized that so many people were like doing cool things behind the lens with the toys that I had been collecting, and it got me back into buying new stuff, backtracking for older stuff. So the intention to shoot toys was my kind of impetus for coming back to collecting in the first place. And so that's pretty much what I've been doing, for the past 10 or so years in terms of, I went through that cycle of buying toys that I wasn't really collecting or buying lines that I wasn't really collecting just because they made great like background goons or they came with sweet props that I could use for other stuff, getting into diorama making, learning, basically creating a 1/12 scale movie set which would then go ahead and help me in the 1:1 scale, which is the industry that I work in now. So while I still act and try to be in front of the camera as much as possible, I've also kind of transitioned into directing. So I direct some shorts with a few writing partners of mine that I've wrote and been in, but also like to get behind the lens to do. So all that has kind of like informed itself. So that's been pretty cool to like combine those two worlds. And here we are. I've kind of slowed down on toy photography in terms of like a more like wide scale setups just because of space and everything. But I've transitioned more recently into like doing more white hot kind of white room photography. But over October, ACBA has a yearly event called October where we have 31 themes for each day, every day of October. And this past October, I did every single day. It was just a whirlwind of different setups, and some of them requiring multiple photos and breaking them down and getting the new one set up for the next day. And I was proud of myself to have been able to do all 31 days. So that really like got me thinking like a toy photographer once again.
That's
after pretty much just doing white hot for a while.
That's impressive. Like I can't even like do an unboxing. Like I can't even put with like unboxing schedule, let alone take a picture like every day. I know it. Well, because like
white hots are great. It's just posing, set them up, light it, done. But when you're doing a full diorama shot, there's a lot more involved in it, and that's fun in its own right too.
Now this episode we are gonna a gush over toy photography we like. I've got stuff from y'all. Fabio, you've got your stuff on your side. But we're also gonna get into the nitty gritty of it. Cameras, lenses, like what you use for said photography. So we're gonna get into that.
And this is why I'm glad to have Speck here too, because you know that is your actual job. So you actually know gear, you actually know the technicalities of things. I'm just like, I think this looks good, and go from there.
That's I won't.
I mean,
wish
that's a big part of it.
Yeah.
I wish, because I took film in college as my minor, and I really wish I would have taken more like camera work. I did a lot of more like writing and producing classes, and like no film. I'm like, now I'm having to learn how to do lighting, like trial and error, and it's a pain in the ass. So let's jump into the show.
Hell yeah.
First off, Adam, he put our faithful co-host Travis in the vamp, which
the Trav dog.
The Trav dog is in the vamp. Now, I don't know how Adam got the vamp already. Maybe he just.
This is probably just the solicitation image.
Yeah. But yeah, Travis. Also, look at Travis's arm. Travis has been really working out, and I guess hiding that from all of us. So. I've been working out. Okay, buddy. I know.
I'm on Griselda.
Which I still have to watch that. I still have to get on that show. I do.
I want to check it out.
Netflix is stupid. Like literally, I'm in the next room from where my wife has our Netflix, and Netflix is like, "Oh, you seem to be like not in the same household." I'm like, "There's 15 feet between TVs." Stupid Netflix. All right. Let's jump into the first. We've got the thing doesn't work. Black Series, Isaiah Takahashi. So I'm just gonna go this, and if y'all want to talk about it, stop me, whatever, let me know. But first off, I'm a huge fan of this shot. Speck, you sent this to me.
Yeah, I tried to just, the ones that I liked and that I knew of and that I knew had really dynamic, striking images. I just tried to pick a few. And so, the cool thing, Isaiah lives down in Orange County, as it says right there. I don't know what he does for a living. I assume it's something in the graphic design world. He does do collaborations a lot with one of the soccer teams, one of the pro soccer teams.
I think I saw LA Galaxy.
LA Galaxy, yes.
Previous slide, yeah.
And he's an approachable dude. I've sent him messages over the past year or whatever, just like asking questions like, hey, what did you do for this? Or how did that work out? And he would always respond. So he's like a helpful dude, because you'll get these two categories of people. And I think there's been a bit of a sea change. But it used to be like, hey, I love this shot. What'd you do? And it'd be like, I'm not giving you my secrets. Like, this is my special blend.
Right.
And then you get the guys that'll sit there and say like, oh, well, like, this is what I did for this light, and this is where I put this, and this is how I made this background and did this and that and whatever. And I think there's been more of a shift to that mindset, which I think is great, because it gets everybody on board and gets other people interested in the hobby. It's, if you have your place in the ranking, you're not going to lose it, right? Like, so that's where you started seeing a lot of these behind the scenes shots, which I'm really bad about taking. But it gives people a chance to like see their setup. What did they do? How did they have it? What kind of a space were they working in? Sometimes you're surprised, like, oh, this dude had like a 1 foot piece of whatever and he was able to do that, or he found a little dirt pile in his backyard and made this. Like, I'm very bad about that. I get this mindset of like, I have to have it looking like this, so I need this, and then I talk myself out of doing the shot because I don't have those things. And then I look at like a lot of Isaiah's stuff, and he does have some very polished, like, hey, I built this, I made it, I took the time, I set this up. He also knows 3D software, so he can do a lot of modeling and all this. But he also has shots where he literally went to a dirt pile somewhere, or a little, outcropping when he was walking his dog or whatever, and found this little area, and he'll go set some figures up and do an awesome shot there. So it's a skill that I wish I had, of being able to see beyond the image that you want, and making something work, even if you don't necessarily have everything you think that you need, because you probably do, you just don't know how to incorporate it.
A lot of it is like trick perspective too, like just really making something seem bigger than it really is, just based on placement.
Right. So he's one of the he does it on occasion still, but he has those it's essentially like a tube with a plunger, and does like the dirt hits, and will do really colorful ones, and that became popular for a while. You'll see
I remember the era of everybody throwing dirt on their figures.
Yeah. I like to think his is a little more thought out. Then you get the guys that like have like little M80s or smoke bombs or whatever, and light those so you can see the sparks. Sometimes they turn out cool. Sometimes I think it just looks a little ham-fisted, a little heavy-handed. But yeah, I mean, like, this guy does some really great, solid shots, good composition, good subjects, great photography. Like, this one's one of my favorites. This one probably has the least amount of actual post, CG or Photoshop or modeling or anything. And I think he gets a lot of backing from LoomCube. Like, they send him products to test out and showcase. And I think this was for when the Pro light panel first came out. But it's just a clever shot. It's like, hey, I have 6-inch action figures. What can I do with them? Oh, these guys shrink. So I can just take a picture anywhere in my living room.
Yeah, this is really taking that idea and actually like making it good, because it really is the easiest thing to do, is to just put an Ant-Man in a real world environment and boom, photo. Yeah. But this is doing something with that idea and like making it, look good, clean, and well composed.
Yeah.
Let's move on. Who else we got?
Yeah, Isaiah's a good dude. So a lot of these guys are in sort of that same like class, I would say, of the people we're pulling up here. I believe it's Black Series, Work More or Less. Nose Rain's another great one, and then Jax from Plastic Action. They actually are all kind of in like a little I don't know if company is the word or like a group. They basically like all collab together and they have like their own sort of group brand. I believe it's called Figure 4, something like that.
Yeah, that sounds
And
about right.
they've been putting out like some little merch on the side and stuff. So they're definitely like a little collective is a better way to put it.
Yeah. They were doing something. They only did it a couple times, but I always thought it was a great idea where they'd come up with a subject and then they'd each do their own interpretation of the subject.
Mm-hmm.
And I just love that because you see how everybody's mind works differently and how everybody's style and technique works differently. I love seeing that kind of stuff. Oh, and we got 1/6 shooter who's also a big boy in the photography world.
112 Trevor, we call him.
And yeah, man, I love your stuff. Mythic Legions. I don't own a single one because I haven't gone down that rabbit hole. But
that means Trevor hasn't done a good enough job.
Oh no, Trevor does a great job.
Trevor, you gotta step it up, buddy. You haven't gotten one more customer here. Your stuff's good, but not good enough for spec.
Dude, I was going through so much. It was hard. There's a lot of people I would have loved to have like pulled and showcased and put on. I reached out to Isaiah to hoping he'd come on tonight, but he was busy and unable to. But he did say like he'd love to another time.
Oh yeah, that'd be fantastic. Next we've got Work More or Less. Kissing Yang. Like I love this shot just because you're like, oh, so many civilians in this.
Yeah.
What is this doing? Okay, there we go. This one, Rainbow Road.
Yeah, great.
So this is one of the Rainbow Road shot, as I was talking to you guys about earlier. So he did a great series a year or two ago, utilizing old school in-camera techniques to do his photos, and this was one of them. And I believe this was light painting. I'd have to look it up again. But you know, effectively, this is all in camera, no Photoshop, no or very little Photoshop, but you know, mostly just in camera and processing. And personally, I love that. You know, the more you can do in camera, the better it's gonna look, in my opinion. Unless you're just freaking crazy with Photoshop or CG modeling or whatever, which I'm not by any stretch of the imagination. So I like to rely on doing as much practically as I can.
Yeah, that's definitely something that having been in the ACBA community for so long is like the main thing that we want to hammer home is do everything tangibly. And it's only in the last, few years where Photoshop has really gotten to that point where it's more accessible to people that you can use a little bit of Photoshop in your post process to like enhance what's already been in camera practically done. So the core of any good photography is always going to be your posing, your staging, your lighting, all that. And then when you actually get to the Photoshop stage, you want to use that to enhance it, not completely rely on it and just, put a figure in front of a green screen or something and then just paint a whole background and paint a whole scene behind it. Because unless you're the second coming of Jesus with Photoshop, it's not going to necessarily look as good, especially at the beginner level. It's something you want to like work up to. Yeah. But the number one is always going to be how well it's posed, how well it's staged.
Yeah. I mean,
it's the blending of elements. I take this from movies. Everything comes down to me. It's all going to draw from movies. Most of the time when you're watching a movie that's full CG, it doesn't necessarily work, right? Unless you've got somebody that's a crazy
I don't
artist.
appreciate you saying that about Rebel Moon.
What's that?
I don't appreciate you saying that about Rebel Moon.
Still haven't watched it.
I'm not saying don't watch it. You just don't need to watch it.
I'm just trolling.
But
I have friends that worked on it. I shouldn't be talking about it.
Yeah, I know a lot of people that worked on it. But like these effects work best when they're blended. Like models back in the 80s, 90s, 70s looked great because they were tangible. right? But a lot of times they look like models. And nowadays, when you get into CG, if you rely too heavily on CG, you start pushing the pendulum too far in that direction. But if you start mixing CG with practical models, with humans, and you start blending these elements, it looks a lot better and it's a lot more believable.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's just, I'm just of the belief you can't go too heavily one way or the other. Like,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it is about that.
I mean, you saying that, it kind of reminded, and I feel bad because I do love the film, but the fight scenes in, say, Winter Soldier versus Black Panther, like that.
Oh, I hated that fight scene at the end of Black Panther.
well, that's a whole other, like, when you're getting into the fight sequence. Are you talking about the like them dropping through the
No,
cave?
just so yeah, that whole fight, because when you watch the Winter Soldier, when it's Steve versus Bucky on the streets, that's a great fight scene, and like it's practical, it's great, it's very well done. But then it's very grounded, very real. But then you get to the Black Panther fight scene, and it's so rubbery and over the top. It's like it like the whole movie was great, and that like 3 minutes just yanks you out of the film.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you, the Winter Soldier fight scenes, if memory serves correctly, that was all 8711, which was a stunt company. It still is, but has also kind of become their own studio, because one of the two founders of 8711 are the two guys that did John Wick. Because they were stunt guys, and I can't remember which one, but one of them was Keanu's double for the Matrix movies. And they're both martial artists, and they're both talented guys, and they started 8711, and you know, the proof is in the pudding, because you watch the movies they do on their own, John Wick and Deadpool and whatever, and like the fight sequences and the stunt work in those are just fantastic.
Yeah. So that's why I'm excited that they're doing the Highlander.
Oh yeah, I just read that one of them's doing the Highlander. Yeah,
I'm not a huge fan that Henry Cavill's the Highlander, but oh well, whatever.
All right, let's get back to the, and Todd, yes, I agree. Nothing gets me more when we're on set, especially like network TV, and you read the script and you're like, oh, we've got a fight today, and then it goes, okay, fight sequence, everybody switch to handheld. And it's just like, really? Don't get me wrong, I love handheld. I love operating handheld when the scene calls for it. But there's also something to be said about seeing the action and letting it play out on its own. You know, like I don't always have to be sitting here making it extra visceral. Like if you've got good choreography and a good fight coordinator who also knows where to put the camera, like the magic happens on its own.
It's true. It's true. Speaking of magic.
Yes. So this was, I never remember the name of the actual technique. What would
I think it's called Pepper's Ghost.
Yes, Pepper's Ghost. So this is essentially a giant split diopter. So this is 100% in camera. Totally could have been done effectively in Photoshop. But essentially what he did was he set up the last Ronin Mikey, and he used the Mummy Mikey head, which I thought was pretty genius.
Pretty brilliant, yeah.
And then he had a piece of glass, and he put the piece of glass in front of the lens, probably at a slight angle. There is a behind the scenes photo of it somewhere where he does talk about it. And that's when he did this whole series, if you look him up on Instagram, he takes you through each of those photos and like what he did to make it happen, and the theories behind it, and the process and the technique. So he set up a piece of glass, typically at an angle to the lens, and then he set up Splinter and the three brothers off to the side, and he pounded them with a blue light so that they would reflect, and then he caught the reflection in the glass, and then obviously positioned it so that when he took the picture, it looked like they were hovering over Michelangelo with, you know, the hands on his shoulders. It's a stunning photo. It's one of my favorites.
Yeah, this is great. And again, at the basis of it, the effect is great, but at the basis of it, he's already built a great scene in camera as well. From all of the props from the Fallen Brothers and Splinter, and yeah, that head swap. the in-camera setup itself is already telling a really great story, and then he's gone to that next level, not with Photoshop, but with a somewhat out of the box effect to really put it over the top.
No, I know. Hold on, let's see. I was trying to pull it up, but my computer is being really slow. Okay, let's see here.
Mm-hmm.
Here's another one where I
yeah.
love the
Right. Another great head swap action.
Yeah, he does a lot of great civilian, just very crowded shots with lots of people. So like when I did that Street Fighter One Piece shot that I posted earlier this week, like I took a lot of inspiration from him of like, oh, I got to find a lot of my civilian figures and like pack it and get it crowded and more than just like one or two people in here. But he's got a Marty McFly body with the Doc head. He's got the Biff head on the Mutagen Tour turtles. Like it's just a really fun shot.
He's just smoking a cigarette. Just rough night on the musical Mutagen Tour or whatever.
Actually, real quick, Speck, here, let's bring up your pictures here. And while we're at it, like this is all this, and
yeah,
this
really
is
great depth of field.
Yeah, thanks. So, do we want to start getting into technical stuff now, or do we kind of want to push that?
You know what? Just real quick, let's say this. We're gonna make this a teaser. Like this is what we'll be getting into in a minute. But let's get back to let's see, where did I put him? We had him right. Okay, there's that, boom, there's that. And then I'll jump into plastic action.
Yeah. So this dude is
great.
Hell of a photographer and an amazing stop motion animator. Who's currently doing something with State Farm. I don't know if you've seen the tease, or I think the first commercial was released, but it's a big Super Bowl spot where Schwarzenegger is the new State Farm representative.
Yeah, I've seen that. Yeah,
Agent State Farm,
and they can't get him to say, "Is it covered?" There's something, I don't know. There's a word, and he's because they're like, "It's this," and he's it's chopper. That's what I said. Choppa. And it's great.
They're hitting them with the Simpsons up and at them.
Yeah.
No, it's up and at them.
And I don't know if he did a stop motion for it, but he did a really fun still photo.
Yeah, I saw some of the BTS stuff, but not the full spot yet.
Sorry, my wife is reaching out to me. So yeah, like I just thought that this was a really fun shot.
Yeah,
very simple shot, but it's clever in my opinion. And
I think this is even a recreation of the same idea that he did, a little bit ago before he was, quite, he basically just did the same idea better now that his skill set has improved.
Yeah.
So really cool to see someone revisit something and improve on it.
Like I did love this. Like
he's
his basketball stop motions are amazing for those foot action commercials.
And he does tons of basketball shots, tons and tons. Yeah. Like it must be the biggest set that he has that he loves, or he's just a huge fan. Like, but that's his thing. And then you see a lot of other photographers trying to kind of run with that idea as well. But I think he's kind of the OG with it.
Well, his Jordan Friends was fantastic. No, the reason I love his Jackson work, but KJ some of these a while ago, and I love these. Like the work that goes into these. I like to try and do this, but I'm like, do I have the patience to have water like spritzing while I'm taking a picture? I don't.
And this is why I wanted to kind of tip the scales the other direction with some of my features too, because there is a lot of stuff that you look at that looks like this, right? And it's hard to really conceive of how it was done unless you have tremendous technical knowledge already. So it can be, you know, almost discouraging, like Speck, like you were saying, like you can't quite get it to look like how you want, so you just give up on the shot altogether, you know.
There's a reason why all my Jurassic Parks are still in the box because I haven't like sat down and okay, I don't like yeah, I don't have this. Like I'll just wait later. And then it's like although now where we have the inflatable pool is the ground is dead, it might really work for Jurassic Parks. I don't know. We'll see.
There you go. I mean, these are,
you know,
it's daunting, especially if you're a one-man band. So, you know, like I do a lot of my shots at night when everybody's gone to bed and I have the full run of the place and I don't have distractions. But then you're just like, okay, I want to try and use some atmospheric fog here. And I don't have a fog machine. So it's very popular within the toy community, the atmosphere, the aerosol atmosphere.
Yeah.
So it's
that's a good
like fog in a spray can. And I'll be sitting there like focusing and having my finger on the shutter release over like here and then like trying to time it out. Like, okay, I just need click. Or if I'm doing a long exposure, it's just like, you know, so like I can only imagine if you're doing this by yourself and you're trying to get sprays just right and you know, if you're doing that kind of capturing that kind of spray, you're using very high shutter, a lot of light, and it's a very quick grab.
Yeah. Hey, Fabio, do you want to like because we're about to jump into who's next? Shooting the Galaxy. Do you want to show some of your stuff real quick?
Some of my features or
yeah,
my Instagram?
Both.
I did just send one photo in the private chat that I use the atmosphere aerosol for, and it is one of my favorite shots that I've done. I think it's my most liked photo in the ACBA Facebook group, which is like in and of itself an achievement. Should I pull it up or?
Yeah, because oh, there we go. Oh, damn, dude. Yeah, go ahead and pull that up here. Let me remove this real quick.
Okay, let me pull it aside. For some reason, it's not like working for me to like. Let's just scroll through the Instagram, so I gotta like send the actual link. But this is a photo I did in 2016 when I had this big like Alien 3 set. I'm sharing. I think you just have to put it up on the screen now.
Oh, here we go. Yes.
But this is the same thing with atmosphere aerosol. Just that classic sort of like light ray coming through. Really just as simple as it can be. Just a set, good lighting, atmosphere aerosol, good posing, and like that's really all it is.
Yep. And you got to know how to use that stuff too. Like I still have trouble using it, and I know how to use fog and whatever. And I've got some shots, like I have the James Bond shot where you can see it and the light shafts are coming through the window. But if you use too much of it, if you get it too much in the foreground, all it does is reflect light. If you've ever been in fog, you know, and especially people that were taught how to drive properly, you don't turn your high beams on in fog. It doesn't make sense. It actually blinds you. Why is that? You have atmosphere and the light reflects off of these particles and droplets that are in the air. You use too much fog or you put the fog in the wrong place, and all of a sudden you have all this light reflecting off of these particles, and you've suddenly washed your image out, which can be done to the proper effect. It just depends on what you're trying to do and how you're trying to do it. But it's just another one of those things where it's like, it's a tool that it takes some practice. And again, like I've been using I think I bought it a while ago. I finally started using it about a year ago, and I still have trouble sometimes getting the effect, you know, the right way with it. And I feel like I would have an easier time if I did have like a little fog machine.
And then one more that I have a nice little behind the scenes of too is one that I did for October. This was a fun little setup, a little difficult because it had a lot of. I was literally shooting this like downward, but the idea is that he's like, this is from the Craig Eradicator Hornet stop motion, kind of inspired by that, where he damages the murder hornet and the murder hornet starts flying away. And this was literally just setting it up in my light box, but sideways. And so I wasn't able to maybe do it as effectively as possible as far as like removing the reflections, because I'm sitting it on a plastic box or like a acrylic box. But you can see that's all done in camera as far as having the scene underneath, putting the acrylic on the front, and then posing the figure on top and trying to get him to balance on one foot, and just taking the shot as is, and you end up with something like that. I don't think I did much like color grading other than just like maybe up in the saturation and the contrast a little bit, but this is quote unquote a simple setup, but it like still takes a lot of time,
Yeah, no.
to get it to look good. A lot of
Now,
trial and error.
Before we get into like the technicals, what cameras do y'all shoot on?
I have a Canon Rebel T5. I had it for like probably 10 years at this point.
So that's the question I like to answer the least.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people are like, oh, I just took it on my iPhone. Oh, all I have is, you know what? I have a pro camera that I bought, and I've had several pro cameras over the years, and I don't do pro photography. I've had one or two like live event shooting gigs just out of coincidence. I've had a lot of Canon ELPHs. I've had, a lot of point and shoots. The camera that I have on me 99% of the time, and I have for years now, is this.
Yeah.
And they keep getting better and better and better. And some of the toy shots that I have on my Instagram are taken with this. None of the big setups that you see, but like, if I get a new figure and I do a quick little lighting setup with him against my little fake brick wall or whatever, it's typically with that. The best camera is the one that you have on you, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
don't let not having a pro camera or a prosumer camera or whatever discourage you from doing any of this. That being said, I have a Nikon. I have a Nikon Z7. So I've always been a Nikon shooter. I still have Nikon film camera, full set of old AF lenses, AFS lenses. I went to digital with a crop sensor, and this starts getting into super technical stuff, but smaller sensor compared to what they call full frame sensor or 35 sensor. So it's equivalent of like 16 millimeter film, 35 millimeter film, and then you can get bigger into like 65 millimeter film. But I started crop sensor because that's what was available. And then as soon as Nikon made a full frame sensor, I went full frame. I loved full frame. Nikon wasn't making a mirrorless camera. Everything was shifting towards mirrorless. Fuji had a fantastic reputation. I sold all my Nikon stuff. I went Fuji. Fuji makes a great camera. They don't make full frame. They only do crop sensor, and now they do medium format. But at the time, it was just crop sensor. And the medium format cameras start at like $6,000 for a body. Fuji didn't work the way that I liked to shoot, unfortunately. They have amazing color. They have an amazing look to them. So when Nikon went mirrorless and announced the Z6 and the Z7, I went right back to Nikon. Anyway, so yeah, I shoot Nikon Z7, full frame sensor. I think, I'm not going to say for sure, but based on what I've seen, I think most of the toy community shoots on crop sensor. And there could be several reasons for that. I think one reason is it almost works inversely. The smaller the sensor, the greater the depth of field you have.
Okay.
And I think when you're shooting miniature photography, because one thing you'll see is like somebody will get an SLR or a mirrorless camera now, and they'll get into it and they'll start shooting all these miniatures in like super, super shallow focus. which can be a cool effect if it's intended, but it can also be a very big distraction if you don't know what you're doing with your exposure. And the crop sensor allows for a slightly deeper depth of field, which also means you can shoot at a slightly wider open aperture to control getting more depth of field and using a little bit less light. The thing I run into shooting full frame is when I want to shoot and get a little more depth of field, I end up having to shoot at like an f-stop that's an 11 or even a 16 sometimes. And I'm too lazy to put an ND filter on so that I open it up a hair more. And then I have to have a ton of light to get my exposure levels up there. And I already shoot pretty dark to begin with. And I'm running out of ISO, digital ISO. Like I can't get it low enough. I'm already into the, bottom that out. So I think when doing miniature, I'd love to experiment and borrow somebody's crop sensor or get a crop sensor, and just see how much of a difference is there. Because I almost guarantee if I was shooting crop sensor, I'd probably be shooting it around like a 5.6 or 4 to about the same effect, and it'd be a lot easier for me to light.
Gotcha. Now, real quick, jumping to Fabio real quick. Is this the what you call the hot white lighting?
The light box stuff.
Light box stuff.
You're on mute.
Excuse me. Yeah, I shoot on a little light box that I have. That's technically like a display case, but I put a white backdrop on it, or really any color backdrop that works to get some good even lighting out of it and be able to really blast it with extra if I need to on top of what's already built in. And sometimes I just use it as like a background lighting and then put some props in front of it, kind of like for the Superman one. And it's not loading when I like click them individually, but yeah, I've been enjoying doing the white hot stuff just to kind of feature the figures a little bit better and really like make the posing and the accessories and the detail like stand out a little bit more, especially because I shoot with a macro lens a lot of the time. So it's easier for me to like get up close, since going a little bit too wide kind of like, I don't know, betrays how like small the light box is, because it's really not very big. Probably like, 12 inches or so like this. And then maybe like 5 inches deep, if that, maybe 6 inches deep. So if I don't get real up close with it, and sometimes I even have to move the whole box physically closer to the camera to be able to get some nice like detail shots out of it. Again, just to more than anything feature like the figures themselves. But I did want to transition to featuring some other up and comers and some people in the community that you may not have heard about that I think are some really great photographers, have their own kind of little style. Some of them
Before you do that, you know what? This is the first episode where we actually get to announce this.
Mm-hmm.
So if you, let's see here, there we go. Let me show this. So we actually now are working with Entertainment Earth. So by going to ee.toys/ATKM 10, you get 10% off on your purchases. I think we do free ship. I think you get free shipping as well.
Oh,
that's awesome. That's great news.
Yes.
I'm gonna have to check that out.
Yeah, so we're actually like finally doing stuff. And I'm actually so there you go. Okay, Fabio, I'm gonna let you introduce us to some more up and coming toy photographers.
Yeah, these are people that again I think are great photographers in the community in their own right, that I think for somebody who's maybe just starting out, you might find some of the work here a little bit more approachable, and it's somewhere where I would kind of recommend that you start rather than immediately like jumping into the deep end and think you can do some like, plastic action hooping shots with some of your figures or the Mike Tyson stuff. Here's someone that I know through the ACBA community. He's always in Poncho's server on the voice chats. Brad Harper Figs on Instagram. I'm going to go basically in order of like smallest to relative largest. So
Perfect.
Brad Harper also did, I think, all 31 days in October, and some very, very simple like stuff. But again, this is stuff that I would recommend like entry level people kind of start with and see if you can build your way up. A good example of like using the same set for 2 different setups right here to be able to get the most out of your setup and everything, you know, cycle figures in and out and see whatever works inside of that set. And then even something simple like this. This is, again, another sort of white room shot, kind of like I do, but he's done a good job of like filling the frame with a lot of props and everything to really fill out the scene. Like, maybe this doesn't have the scope of some of the bigger photography you see out there, but I would challenge anyone who's like new into the toy photography scene to like start here, see if you can get something just this clean, this cropped, this contained, to really like, you know, build your skill set from there. You know, something like this, it's all just posing, lighting, and framing. It's really about as simple as you can get with the same figure, putting it through its paces, getting some different setups going. You know, just showcasing properties and figures and characters that you really like, displaying their power set or what it is that they're good at. Something a little more moody like this with guts, you know. Brad's got a great variety of stuff. You know, here, another great example, just a colored backdrop, some great lighting, and some props and some good posing. It's really all you need to really like set it off. You know, even the cape doing its thing, that's a whole 30 minutes of posing the cape right there, you know. Again, the formula is right there. Just a good backdrop, good lighting, good posing, and some props to fill out the frame. And you know, this I think this is a Cosmic Legion's figure. You know, even like a spotlight right there on like the hologram of his like wrist computer thing to really you know, showcase what it is that he does. So, you know, simple. It doesn't get any simpler than this, and it's clean, it's effective, and it makes the figure look great. I think trying to start out with something like super like, you know, ambitious can be pretty daunting. So again, I would challenge anyone just starting out to just see if you can get a good framing with some good posing and some good lighting and go from there, you know, and doing it through multiple different things. Like this is such a great example of just making the colors pop just through sheer lighting. The background isn't anything crazy. It's just a purple backdrop and a couple of little, you know, accent lights in there to highlight the goblin on the green meanies right here, which Poncho makes. The Red Death, these are the dynamic dusties down here as well. Again, just doesn't get any simpler, and it's clean, and it's still very good photography, but I feel like it often gets overlooked because of kind of the blockbuster nature of some of these like bigger photography people out there, photographers even.
Yeah,
another great guy.
He does a nice trick per se that I'm not always great about it. I try and do more of it, but you know, foreground, something that helps give your photos depth. And if you notice, I think every one of his photos that I've seen, except for the Robin picture, has a nice foreground element. And then, of course, you know, when you're shooting and exposing and doing your focus, obviously your foreground element is slightly soft, as is your background element, and that just helps create this element of depth. And it's a simple little thing, but it does big things for your work.
Again, it just helps fill out the scene a little bit more, you know. And then another great guy on that similar vein, also another VC boy, Vince Figs. Vince does some really good stuff with the dynamic dusties and filling out a scene. But Vince also has been doing a lot of BTS stuff too, so he gets to show off his whole setup and everything. Here's a cool like Spider-Man Mysterio shot, and this is the setup for it.
What are dynamic dusties? Is that a Mezco thing?
No, Poncho from our podcast 3D prints them, and he's done them in a few different colors. I have the white ones, but for Halloween he did the special green meanies right here.
Gotcha.
And yeah, you know, he's got the digital backdrop there, but it's like so far in the back, all it really does is you know, fill out the scene a little bit more. And looking at it like on a table like this is where I think a lot of people starting out, you know, make the mistake of like setting up your scene first and making it look like as good as possible, like in person, and then going and finding where to shoot it from. Whereas this is kind of built from the frame out. So you on the table, it doesn't look like anything. It's a bunch of disparate elements there. But once but you're building it like within the frame, so you get to perfectly position where everything is, and something that is like so far away from the actual display is creating that nice, that foreground that you're talking about to really fill out the whole scene. And since the I think he has the Hot Toys drone back there, it's all the way in the back. It, you know, all serves to make Spider-Man feel real small and everything. Really good scene building here. Again, definitely just some good moody lighting, good posing, putting these Revel techs through their paces here. And again, look at that setup. It doesn't look like much on the table, but building this out within the frame and really getting to fill everything, you create that illusion that it's a scene that's bigger than it really is. You know, he's a big fan of Kamen Rider and the Super Sentai stuff. So, you know, he's got a really small area that he's working with, but he's really making it work for sure. And just leaving the same scene set up and cycling a few different like light sources and light colors and temperatures really helps you like get the most out of everything, you know.
This actually is a good point for both of y'all. Kim brings up, I have the hardest time with reflections when using a monitor in the background.
You have a hard time with reflections because of the lights you're using. You're seeing your lights. Is that what you're having an issue with?
It also kind of depends on the monitor too, because some of the more like modern monitors are less reflective. Like the material of like the LCD screen is probably like a little like softer. I had old monitors that were like very shiny. It just kind of depends. I'm not sure what he's using here, but you know.
That's true. I guess like some of the older Apple monitors are extremely reflective because of what they put on them to create that extra contrast. When I do the virtual background, which I haven't done in a while, I use my TV, which has a more matte finish. I do have an issue sometimes where I'm setting up a light and I'm catching, oh crap, there's a reflection, and all of a sudden I have to set up a flag or something, and then this is where I'm sitting here going, damn it, I don't have grip equipment, so now I have to like make these shitty rigs to do what I know but you know, I'm not gonna go spend money on what the
seems like that's kind of what he did here too with this right here. And
yeah,
honestly, going handheld with some of that stuff is good too. Like sometimes I want to put a light in a certain place, but I don't have a way to rig it, so I literally just hold it and then just do the 3-second countdown on the camera, and you know that's where something like that is helpful. He's using an actual DSLR, of course, but if you have like somewhere to mount your phone, if you're using your phone, again, that's a good way to like build things within the frame. And it always starts out with posing. So he just had the idea to do the pose and then find a way to make it work within the frame. Even if I've seen it where you physically are holding Spider-Man with your hands to take the shot, you know, if you don't have a way to rig him up. Even something simple like this, you know, can be, you know, he does a lot of good comic recreations too. I think there was one earlier I wanted to show, but you know, you start to see the formula here, and you know, he does it really effectively, again, with just a lot of lighting to fill out the scene and everything. That's great. Good sense of depth there, you know, for just being two figures, a foreground and a background, you know. That's all you really need. Even it looks like the hammer is even a cutout, so that's he went the extra step to like make this a cutout to make it, you know, bigger within that foreground. I think that looks great. So that's Vince at Vince Figs on Instagram. Here's another guy that I know through like the Mezco community. He was always popping up on my live streams. I thought he was just one of those YouTube lurkers. Come to find out, he's a fantastic photographer in his own right. Vonnie Rotten. Vonnie Rotten is one of my
some good stuff.
Yeah, one of my favorite, most clever kit bashers, photographers, scene builders that just needs more love, man. He does a lot of really good stuff.
Really makes me want the freaking Vaporoni, that asshole.
Oh yeah, his Vaporoni series is great, and he's definitely, you know, leaning into the Photoshop a little bit more. So we're kind of walking into that spectrum a little bit, but it all helps to you know, build out these great scenes that he's got. A lot of it is definitely practical, but there are those little few elements that, you know, aren't so overdone that they take away from what is the practical stuff. This is just, I want to say he even, you know, duplicated, you know, just through Photoshop a lot of these pigeons, because I don't see him having 8 Hazard Squad Gomez's to get this many pigeons, but maybe he does. I don't know. Just a lot of clever little scene building from smaller scale to bigger scale stuff. This is such a great kit bash of Doc Nocturnal in like a Western outfit as a cowboy, but look how simple that setup is. I mean, in even just to get the horse to sit a little bit lower on the frame, he's just got it on its articulation kind of bent down to make the horse a little bit shorter so that it fits in the frame better. And that's it. It's just a floor, 2 figures, a tree, and a backdrop, and just good framing, good depth of field there. Look at that. And he's dealing with a reflective monitor too, but he's got his lights positioned in a way where you can't actually see that reflection, which is, obviously one way to avoid that. Here's another one he did more recently that really caught my eye. Some very Adam Strange type of look, Yeah. He has recreated the sort of, pulp comic cover, but this is the setup that he did for that. Really good. Literally just figure, backdrop, dirt, foreground elements, all works very well together. Some custom pieces there. And then I think I guess his TV is off now, but he had a backdrop on there as well. Here's another one with Veteran William, which a lot of people are loving. You can see, the difference between how it is on his camera to his final product. Definitely a lot of color grading, a lot of Photoshop to this, but it's not so over the top. It's really just adding to what's already in frame here. Another great one here. I'm kind of doing them backwards, but here's the final shot. Grinch Vaporoni, love it. And then his actual setup, all of it is in camera, but where he needed to add a few lights or something, he did it in post. And he even made the smile a little bit bigger. Look at that. He gave it the full on like Grinch smile.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, really good.
Creepy, but fantastic.
Bonnie Rotten seriously does some great stuff. Very clever. I mean, again, all these kit bashes, man, just really fun stuff. Look at this crazy orc on a throne. I mean, come on, that's badass. Here's the in-camera setup. I like that he takes the photo of his setup of his viewfinder here, so you can see what his settings are at. Shooting with a really low ISO, and just that sense of scale. Like this dude looks huge as is from that low angle that he's chosen to go with it. And all he really did is just make the flames look more authentic rather than just like static pieces of plastic flame right there, Vonnie Rotten is a fantastic artist. I love this one. One more here. Oh, no, don't do this to me. Well, Devil Went Down to Georgia.
That's fantastic.
That one, and then if I can click into this one to show it, it won't let me know. This is a great one that he did.
I was messing up. I'm glad you're actually able to get on.
Yeah. I'll just pull it up like this. But this was a great one that he did because it's actually 2 setups, and he like photoshopped them into one. So he had it so that it was just, if you see in this photo, in his behind the scenes, it's just set up with the empty table. And then he went and built the other scene separately and then shot that and then put it into the other scene. So the miniatures are just full-size figures that he like shot super wide so that when it gets to this final shot here, he superimposes that onto the empty table. And these are full-size figures, but obviously, you're doing the D&D thing, so they're miniatures. I mean, this is so clever. On the top of that, he's built out the whole scene back here of the room, of the posters, of
that is
the figures on the table, the bedroom, the light coming through the window. All of this is just so fantastically done. Very clever.
Cool.
2-day shoot. So definitely go follow Vonnie Rotten on Instagram to see, read all of his descriptions and his BTS stuff. Love Vonnie Rotten. Really good stuff. I could keep going. His stuff is just so cool and clever and so many great kit bashes. I mean, look, it's, hey, you like these guys. It's Han Solo and Chewbacca, but it's not. There you go. So that's Vonnie_Rotten. Another great up-and-comer in the community I really love. Henrock 112. That's my boy, Henrock 112. Some of the great Mezco photography out there. Always keeping up with what's, the newest releases as well. So he's got some good stuff with the latest Spider-Man and a custom head that he added onto it too. Some really good stuff here. He's making the Spider-Man look great. Sculpted by My Name is Brian. Again, just very, very simple, up close shots, a lot of great detail showing off the figure, and just really clever little setups, all done with the posing and the staging being at the center of it, and just framing it all to look as good as possible. That's some great, Conan's. I mean, this Henrock is my boy, man. He's really good. He, in a short time, he really came up quick and learned a lot of the tricks of the trade to just get some good, clean photography, and just doing that little bit of enhancing with Photoshop, like making the eyes a little brighter on the Spider-Man here.
Yeah.
You like this guy too. There's a Roadblock from the G.I. Joes. Really good. He has a.
We literally can't go one show without talking about G.I. Joe. It's hilarious.
Yeah, no, you can't. Punisher, really great variety of stuff. A little bit of a Mayfax action here as well. More of those Justies in the foreground there from Ponchisi. Little Street Fighter, all of this. Just, I don't know if he has any BTS shots on his Instagram, but this again it's all posing. Maybe there's a little bit of like a stand or something that he's put back here to help balance. But most of the time, it's all hidden by these practical elements rather than wanting to like Photoshop them out. John Wick kit bash here again, just a great scene, a great setup. Diorama's doing a lot of the talking here, but everything's framed really well and lit really well. Some more Mezco thing, love Henrock's work, man. He's super clean. I think. Again, once you're getting to the level of doing full dioramas and stuff, this is a great, approachable way to go about your photography. It's just literally setting up the scene and just shooting it, or setting up your frame and then setting up your scene within that frame to make everything, fit and be able to highlight everything as best as possible. I mean, it doesn't get any simpler. It's just a photo, or it's just a figure posed up with some good lighting. I keep saying it, but that's really what. That's really what it like comes down to when you see these very again, these kind of blockbuster shots, these grandiose photos. It can be pretty daunting, but it really doesn't have to be much more complicated than just knowing how to light, knowing how to frame, and knowing how to pose. Really good, really good. Shout out to Henrock. I think he said he was going to be watching this evening, so shout out to you, Henrock. This is great, man. A lot of really great. I mean, we can keep going. A lot of really great photography on Henrock's profile here. Henrock 1_12 on Instagram. Definitely go give him a follow.
I'm following all these people as we go through them.
Yeah, you must. Look at this. It's got on my gaslight. Look at that. That's insane. That's so clean, so good. Again, just I challenge you to just do something this clean and not have it be super ambitious, but still doing a good job producing a good final product.
Yeah.
Up next, real quick, TG Vaughn. On that same tip, another great photographer, leaning into the ACBA stuff a little bit here with some more kind of Infinity Gauntlet stuff here. Simple, white hot shot. Doesn't take much more than that. Amazing lighting on this setup right here. And, he's got some good BTS stuff here as well. Some BTS photos of the setup. It's not even, the full Batmobile in the frame. He just has like enough of it to suggest the idea of the Batmobile, but it doesn't necessarily need to have a huge shot. It's very close, very intimate, and well lit, and he also did all of October. Love when they do these BTS shots. Not working with a huge area necessarily, but he's got some good lighting on there to really sell the scene. And then he ends up with, I don't know if he has the final shot somewhere here, but good kit bashes as well. James McAvoy as Lex Luthor. Gotta love it.
I like that. I feel like that kit bash.
Right. Good casting. Detail shots. And then here's the full setup there. Moody stuff. Oh, speaking of Mr. Freeze there, Henrock really also did the absolute best photo of Mr. Freeze that anybody's ever done. Everyone else can pretty much just stop shooting Mr. Freeze because he did just the best photos of him when Mezco Mr. Freeze first came out. And that's what really, I think, put him on my radar. I mean, just incredible stuff. I just thought of it because of Mr. Freeze, and I knew I wanted to highlight that. Not to say TG didn't also do a great shot with Mr. Freeze. again, that was how Henrock came on my radar. TG Vaughn also was big into October, so I think he did most of, if not all of the days. So he really grinded it out and did, you know, as many of the themes as he possibly could, and ended up with a really good variety of photos here from anime and Dragon Ball, you know, to more domestic comics and everything. And all of these, you know, the panels, these are all individual setups and individual photos, you know, having to turn the, you know, do turnarounds and everything it's a lot of photography to sell, you know, what can just be dismissed as like one post, you know, but having it all going through the trouble of setting everything up to make it, you know, as legit as this looks, it, you know, the work definitely shows. That's TG Vaughn. Same with this Cyber versus Logan shot. You know, it's all individual photos. You know, all of these take time in and of themselves, and to put them together into one coherent sequence, also featuring some custom parts and everything. You know, very, very simple little set as well. That's all it really takes. That's why I like shooting with a macro too, because you don't have to build as big of a scene a lot of the time too. And then last but not least, here's a guy who is a admin in our ACBA Facebook group. He's come up quite a bit. One of the all-time great photographers. His color palette on all of his photos is always just insanely good and super clean setups. This is Black Symbio, Diego Carlo.
Yeah, that's nice.
Right, just all, and he'll even say it on his profile. Everything is 100% tangible, no post editing or color correction. So he's not even doing any minor Photoshop or anything like that. This is all just a straight setup, backdrops, photos, figures, posing, lighting, as simple as it, you know, just the bare bones stuff, but just executed to just such an expert degree. This is the you know, the backdrop from the TMNT set, custom Dio set on there, and just really good lighting, really good posing, building that frame within the viewfinder. I mean, this is just one of the all-time great Avengers shots right here.
Yeah.
Super white hot, that old giant man in the background there. Shame he's gonna have to redo this when the new one comes out.
Yeah.
But I mean, look at that. I think he even shot the giant man on his own and then just made a cutout of it. That's crazy. Yeah, that's just a cutout. So he had done it one way and then kind of reshot it to make it even better. Insane. Now this is where it can get ambitious while still being that bread and butter,
Right.
lighting, framing, you know. How about this? I mean, this is a big shot. You know, there's a lot of elements to this. There's a lot of details to it. It's a full set. He's got the Muppets kitchen in the background there. All the little props individually placed and just lit really well and shot, you know. This is a cleaner than my current home right now. Insane. More just incredible lighting, incredible setup, a lot of flame effects. And even this, just one set, one figure, some good lighting.
Yeah, I love that one.
You know, this is where posing is really just putting this over the top. You know, this wouldn't be as good if this was any, you know, inferior of a pose. And just that color pop, man, so good. Same thing. One figure, good lighting, good posing. There's that Galactus. I mean, yeah, Diego pops off, man. He's fucking snapped for this one. And you know, reusing those same sets, getting a lot of use out of what is essentially the same setup, but just changing the figures or some of the props within to really get the most out of your set in one photo session. I mean, this is definitely an ambitious physical setup, but at its core, it's just one figure, you know. Really good. So that's Diego. That same Black Panther set, just one figure and excellent lighting. It's really all it needs to be a great photo. You know, maybe some atmosphere aerosol here and there to put it over the top if you want, you know. But again, for someone maybe just starting out and you really want to feature your figure as best as possible. Don't let yourself be, you know, discouraged or intimidated by something that's, you know, but something that you've seen people do that's this crazy ambitious thing. Just work on those basics, that simple setup, the good posing, lighting, framing, do it all within your viewfinder, whether you're using a phone or a camera, all that stuff. I feel like a broken record, but maybe someone will walk away with some a little bit more intimate knowledge of how some of these setups are done, and, you know, will be persuaded to jump into the arena, because it really does not have to be much more complicated than what you see right here.
Yeah.
Diego's been in the game for a long time, so he's obviously spent some good money on nice sets and all that. But even if you've got just a monitor and like a prop, or like a Diamond Select brick wall or something that came with a figure, that's all you really need.
The other thing to hammer home is you're not going to be a master the first time you take a photo, right? Like, professionally, I'm a cinematographer. I do the toy photos for fun and a little of my own personal creative output. I'll never sit there and say that I'm an amazing toy photographer. I'm still an amateur, and I'm my own worst critic, so I can go back and point out everything I don't like about all the photos that I've posted. But it's like any other art form. The more you do it, the better you'll get, the more consistent you'll become, you know, the more tricks you'll learn. And part of the fun is just the experimenting, right? I've done several photos that just never get posted because I'm not happy with them. Bobby's, you've seen a couple of them.
Mm-hmm.
I don't like them. I don't think that they're post worthy, but I learned something shooting them. I had fun shooting them. There was something redeeming about that because of the education aspect of it.
Mhm.
And I'm able to take that knowledge with me into the next setup that I do. And so, yeah, you got to get out. Like, sometimes you just have to get out of your own way and just say, like, I am not a pro. Nobody is paying me to take these photos of my figures.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
I'm doing it because it makes me happy. Sometimes I get a really awesome shot. Sometimes I don't. Sometimes I post a shot and I still look at it after the fact and sit there and go, I wish I'd done this. I wish I'd done that. I should have done this. I should have done that. This is a mistake. Some other pro is going to see it and they're going to critique it and they're going to, like, you know, point it out. And I'm sitting up here, you know, on a stream feeling like I've got imposter syndrome sometimes, even though I do know that I know what I'm talking about. You know, it's that whole thing. Get out of your own way. Like,
Mm-hmm. Bobby, I dare you to jump into the arena.
So here's the thing. I actually started to.
Yeah?
I took some pics. I was meh on them, but actually you two kind of got me going, you know, kind of got me like inspired a little bit. So I want to get back into it because I've just been really busy with this new job. But as of the thing I'm trying to do is I've got my Ghostbusters Firehouse, and on top of it I've got Blade, the Chip Zdarsky Daredevil, and Black Symbiote Spider-Man. I'm trying to get the lighting right for them, to where when I get that, when I'm happy with the shot, I will definitely share it with the community, because yeah, like, you know, watching y'all, and, like, you know, especially, you know, Speck, because Speck's always like A or B, camera A, camera B, like A, camera 1, camera 2. So I have, and like, this is the issue. I'm like, as a writer, I can just like sit down, write, and maybe like half of it is crap, half of it's good, but I can always go back and like, but I just have to have my down, and it's easy for me. But for my figures, I feel I have to like have this like grandiose, like Speck was saying at the beginning, I have to have this like grandiose idea. I have to have like all this stuff. And like, no, it's a simple shot. It's a simple shot. Like, just do it. So It's also what happens when you have ADHD. It's like, I'll do this. Ooh, squirrel. And then you start doing something else. It's like, nope. Pull yourself back, and like focus.
And as far as like equipment and stuff too, you know, Amazon has a lot of great deals all the time on Ulanzi lights and things like that. So definitely keep on the lookout.
I actually have.
Honestly, any sort of like desk lamp will work just fine. You know, if you have a couple of just random desk lamps sitting around, or even your room light or something, even natural light, if you're shooting next to like your window or something, you can get some good lighting.
Actually, thanks to KJ, aka Black Angus, I actually do have two Alonzi lights.
I think I got the same link from him. Hell yeah.
Yes, we did.
Yeah. I've started buying their stuff because I hate it because I equate it to like cheap indie filmmakers that buy the cheapest knockoff stuff, and then and Ulanzi is. I think they're trying to be a legitimate company. They are a legitimate company, but they are a Chinese company, and they take a lot of cues from Loom Cube and other.
Yeah, it's Loom Cube at home for sure.
And I've got a couple Loom Cubes, and I like them, and they're pricey. They do a lot of sales. They have their pluses and their minuses, and I've bought a lot more Ulanzi stuff recently, and I like it, and I like what it offers, and the price is right for it.
Yeah, I have a few that I use here. Let me see. Oh gosh.
Yeah, so I've got.
Oh boy, dropping everything. These are good. And so I have two of these sort of bigger ones, and you can put little gels on them. There you go. That's good, Bobby.
Yeah.
You can put like a gel in front of it, or like a plastic cover for different colors. These are a little bit older too. Some of the newer ones, these aren't even Ulanzi. This is like E-Mart or something. I think I got these on Amazon. But it's a set of two, and they have, you know, the stand and everything. So you can do, that's usually what I use for like bigger lighting, but for smaller, more kind of I guess I just use this for like accent lighting a lot of the time. Similar to that Ulanzi that you got right there, Bobby, but this is a little bit older. So I actually had to put gels in front of it. So you pop this off and then you put a gel in there. But depending on how like bright it is, and usually I go for some of the brighter things. You can change the temperature on this too, so that's nice. But it's better if you actually have the LEDs that can change color themselves, because sometimes these get so hot they burn through the gels, and so you end up losing color the more and more you use it. So those colored LEDs are definitely the way to go.
Yeah, so just
right here.
changing the lighting on here.
I really should be using this for my own lighting right here, just so I'm not so dark right now, but it's all good. Ooh, spooky. You holding a lightsaber there, Bobby?
If you go, hey Bobby, go to my go to the behind the scenes pick for me. My behind the scenes pick.
I'll stop my screen share, and then I need to be right back.
Yes. So we're gonna go at the stage. Let's go ahead and throw behind the scenes right there.
So the two, well, there's not, there are the two panel lights that are just off to the side of the camera. Those are both Loom Cubes. One's I can't even remember the names of them. Just a Loom Cube panel that does, it's bicolor, so it does daylight and tungsten. And then the one on the left is one of the pros, so it's full RGB plus daylight and tungsten.
Oh wow, okay.
And then the two little squares in the back are the ones, just these. And these are also, you have this one. These are also bicolor plus RGB, plus they have effects if you were doing video with them. They also have magnets in the back, which are nice.
Really? That is nice.
Yeah, because if you look, you'll see hanging over, I have this little metal contraption, and that was from my son's when he had a bug, and that's what you hang the heat light lamp off of.
Oh.
So it's just a little metal arm, but it's magnet, you know, so that's a little Loom cube that's just magnetized right on the sticking off, hanging from there. And then the big light that has the round diffuser on it, that's also an Ulanzi. That's a 40-watt, fully dimmable color Ulanzi. Yeah, built-in battery, or it can run off AC power. I got that one because I was feeling like I needed a bigger light with a little more punch to do nice windows, window blowouts, window shafts.
Right.
Yeah.
Is this
Five Below, like you can find some fun stuff there that's super inexpensive if you're just getting started.
yes, here's the finished product. I mean, the lighting is amazing, and so yeah, it's
Thank you. So, this one I think I relit it. I lit it and then I ended up having to relight it. It wasn't going the way that I wanted it to in my head. I wanted a very hot top light, and then I wanted it to sort of fall off. And I was
okay.
originally using that big 40-watt Ulanzi at like 1%, and I'd taken some aluminum foil to try and build a snoot. So kind of like a shape. So if you look at the little cone cutout on the loom cube that's hanging off above them, that's called a
Yes.
snoot. So I tried to build that with the 40-watt one and then sort of hold it over because I don't have a stand that can get me directly over, and it was just too much light. So the whole thing was just too bright. So I went through everything. Explosion, lighting, and effects. I've seen a few. I'll get to that one in a second. So then I decided, I took the loom cube with the snoot. I said that'll probably do it. That's exactly what I did. Hang on one second. And then I have all those other lights all around because I wanted to backlight all the characters so that they're kind of cut out from the background a little bit.
Gotcha.
So, taking it on an iPhone makes it seem like they're really bright, but I think most of those lights were somewhere at like 5%. I had them dimmed.
Oh wow.
down,
Okay.
pretty low. And then the reality was the scene was still just too dark. And I was doing long exposures. I was probably doing like a 3-second exposure for this one. So I ended up bringing the 40-watt light back on with a diffuser.
Yeah.
And you'll go back to the behind the scenes.
Oh. Hold on. There we go.
So I just kind of pointed it over for like an ambience, and I think I had it somewhere between 5 and 10%. And then I added that little white card just so I had a little return fill on the Monkey D. Luffy figure, because his face was the one being featured out of the two fighters, but he was getting the least amount of light if you see how I had all the lights set up. So I just needed a little bit of return fill just to kind of, pop a little bit of light back into his face. What's up, Moody? And then, when I got it into post, and there's no Photoshop or anything on this one, just Adobe Lightroom.
Yeah.
I was able to bring the back levels down just a hair and then maintain everything else that I wanted. And then I wanted the hot top light. So I got that. And then I actually kind of around the hands, they were getting like super blown out. So I brought that back just a little bit in post. But thanks, Chad. Most of this in camera and processing in Lightroom, and that was that. And it's a bigger lighting setup just because of the amount of characters that are in it. But really, like, most lighting can be done 3-point lighting: backlight, key light, and a fill light. And a lot of times fill light can be just a bounce.
Yeah, that's what I usually use the Ulanzis for, is like even sometimes the fill light just being like if the figure's like here, I sometimes just put it like at its feet, very low setting, just to like get a little bit more pop.
Yeah.
Because it's off frame, you don't always see it. It really depends on what it needs. Or sometimes it is just a bounce. Yeah.
I also like doing negative fill a lot. And so instead of using a white bounce card, I use a black bounce card. Because sometimes you're getting too much bounce and you don't want that. You want the contrast, you want the shadow. So I'll throw up a black and then that helps kill a lot of the light return. I'm trying to think. Do you have any
one of my cheat codes too is I love using black light for a fill light as well, just to sometimes like just add just that some like a slight etherealness to it. I'm not sure what to really call it, but for this one right here, Bobby, I'm sending you. You can ignore them, but I sent you a bunch of BTS images.
Yeah, I'm trying to pull them up right now. There we go.
I can screen share them real quick.
You guys keep talking. I'm gonna switch rooms so my kids can go to bed. I'll be listening.
Okay,
perfect.
Here, I'll share my screen here real quick.
Yeah,
this is one of my favorite shots that I had done for October. It's called Canon Event, and you know, I wanted it to look like he was sort of in like a dream, like astral projection with Doctor Strange, and he's like showing Spider-Man his past. Yeah, and I really wanted the dynamic dusties down here to like pop, not just be like a flat white, but to really like pop. So
yeah, image? Oh, that's how you did it.
And I even had it so I wanted it so that the foreground scene and the background scene had two different lights, or two different like light temperatures, I guess. So I had it so that the yellow light is like on the foreground figures, and then the back is like all black light, and a little bit of like the room light, I think, too. So the deep background is like kind of blue, and then the front is like yellow to really like differentiate between the two. And the black light with a little bit of extra exposure from the DSLR like pops a lot more, and you get two very different color temperatures, as you see right here. And all I really did is just up the saturation a little bit on like Instagram, but you see how it really, I think, produces that effect pretty well of making sure that the yellow light didn't touch the background figures here at all. I think this was one of my favorite little simple. Doesn't get any simpler than this. It's literally just the posing and the lighting that's putting it over the top, and the framing. You know, I'm not really relying on anything other than that. And then another one I can pull up here that I thought was kind of fun was this one that I had kind of shown some of these in our chat while I was doing them, but depending on the day, sometimes the chat was burying them depending on how deep the conversation was going in another direction.
Yeah,
but this was one. This was definitely inspired. I showed this a little early. This was definitely inspired by 1/6 Shooter. You know, if I'm shooting a Mythic Legions shot, I can't help but be inspired by him. And I wanted to really like give it that kind of dark gothic feel, but I knew I wanted these kind of shadows on their feet. I couldn't quite get the long shadow effect that I wanted. It's kind of what I was going for, but this was just, again, simple setup right here. And it's just getting everything into frame, getting everything to show off the figures without really washing them out too much. But what really, I think, gave the scene a good color, a good temperature, was a little bit of black light on the skeletons back here. That's what this silver one back here is. While the back was just bouncing the light off of my white wall. So I had the Ulanzi lights, or maybe those big ones that I showed. Those were actually, instead of like shining into the scene, they were shining into the white wall behind the scene. So it wasn't like a spotlight. It still gave it that kind of white background without it like totally, you know, washing it out. If it was like the direct light, this would just be like a full silhouette. But I wanted you to still be able to see that it was Morgulith back here, and, you know, getting a little bit of kind of lens flare in certain spots too, without necessarily meaning to, and giving him a good skin tone. And then this was also my like room light. So the little bit of orange light that's like on him is from my actual like room, and that room had a mirror, so I could like shine the light onto the mirror and then bounce it into the scene without it like being directly on the scene, because that would have made it just a little bit too much. So it's just kind of using everything that I had around me, and again, just being in camera, in the frame, taking a shot, seeing what works, seeing what doesn't, and then kind of adjusting from there just until I thought it looked good. This was a fun little setup to do right here. I love this. And again, just background, just a nice Crashbox Customs diorama, you know, the classic Legions pieces that he does. Really good. I loved this scene a lot. And then
that's another trick with the toys, you know, shiny plastic. And not all of us do a matte coat. I don't do a matte coat. I know a lot of guys do that. I know that Isaiah Black Series,
Mhm.
a lot of times he'll go through and use rough and buff, or whatever it's called, buff and rub, kind of dirty up his figures, age them a little bit. He'll do a little matte coat on them to take the shine down. I don't have the time or the desire to start messing with that. I don't like modifying my figures too much.
Yeah,
So,
same.
bounced light, diffused light, bounced light, rather than always using such a direct light, helps control that so that you're
Mhm.
not getting that plastic sheen.
This one is a little out of frame too, but I also had another of these Ulanzis like at their feet, like shining directly. You know what? Since I had a glass surface here, I actually aimed the light down into the surface, and it made the floor a little bit that color and just kind of like diffused it without
That's
having the
cool.
direct light up. Real quick, this was also the Craig one that I had showed earlier, but just another. This one I actually did have to Windex the whole like acrylic just so I didn't have any like smudges on it or whatever. This was kind of funny because that particular night, just from all like the lights in my room, I was getting like a ton of gnats like coming in through my window for some reason.
Yeah.
So on top of that, I had to like bug spray the room and like the windowsills and everything and like clean the wall. And then they actually got inside of the light box. So I had set it up complete at one point, and then I had to take it down to like clean all the bugs out of it. It was really annoying.
Yeah.
But hey, anything to get the shot. And I was literally like, I was on a ladder, like looking down, shooting into the light box. That was a precarious setup for sure.
I want to answer David Warren Hernandez's question real quick about the explosion effects.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of guys take cotton.
Oh yeah.
They build their explosion with the cotton, and then they paint the cotton varying degrees of oranges and yellows, and then the grays and the blacks, and then they usually put LEDs inside of that they can plug in and give it that nice backlit looking effect, and that's what they do for that.
Yeah.
I haven't used them. I'm not opposed to it. I'm just lazy, so I haven't tried to make, had the desire to make. I want easy. I get these grandiose ideas, and then it's like, oh, I got to do this, and I got to do this, and I got to do this, and it's just like I want simple. So like going back to the Street Fighter figure, it was my kid's birthday this past weekend, and he's a big One Piece fan, and I happened to come across that Monkey D. Luffy Figure Arts figure at Target, so I grabbed it, and that's what I gave him for his birthday. And it's a pretty neat figure. And I was staring at my Street Fighter figures because they're under the TV, and I was just like, I want to do something with this. And the diorama happens to be a work in progress. I've been building it for 2 years. That's how lazy I am. For Jabba's Palace, because a friend of mine 3D printed and painted this awesome dais for the Black Series Jabba that I said I would do photographs for him, and I still have yet to finish that stupid diorama. But it's a cool enough diorama that I've been able to use it for other photographs. So I was like, oh, this would be great backdrop for a fighting pit. So that's what I had. That's what I used. So it's that thing of like what Fabio was saying is like simple, easy. What do you have? What's available? What makes a cool shot? The only thing that makes that shot complex is because I threw in 20 background characters. Other than that, it's a simple shot.
That's more time spent posing each one and everything, so that's where it starts to complicate.
Yeah,
but that's fine.
But
this one here, I did a little bit of. I think I just put an Instagram filter on it or something. I didn't go like too deep into it. I just wanted to have that vintagey sort of look. But this was all built inside of my light box.
Where'd you get that pipe from? That's an awesome.
This is so there's a company called 12 World, TW Toys 12 World, and they've done a bunch of different diorama sets. A lot of them are like made of resin, like very legit heavy dioramas, really well detailed. They take up a lot of space, but they work really well. And This one, I just had that, and it comes with its own floor piece. It fit like perfectly inside of the light box, but you see the back of the light box is all just like a plain black kind of matte wall. So I wanted it to still look like a little bit more like industrial. So just cheating it with the angle, obviously you don't get to see any of that black wall. And instead, to fill it out, I put the Diamond Select Gotham wall pieces that I've had for like years, just sitting in a bin. And they don't necessarily snap together, so they're just kind of carefully balanced on one another right back there to just finish out that wall. The rest of it's, obviously out of frame. And then to cover like the holes, the peg holes that it has right here, put this stuff on the table in front of it to block it out. And that's it. It's just the posing and the framing that's really like doing it, Love this Vaporoni figure. I'm not doing it just to make you jelly, Speck. But this was a lot of fun.
You're making me totally jelly.
And it's supposed to be just like this guy's like his boss, and it's like making him work. The little mezzet in the back.
How do I present? I hit the present button, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
And then Bobby has to like highlight it.
Yeah.
Share screen.
Yeah. Do the whole screen. And then Bobby, you click into it.
Waiting for.
Oh, I see. Okay, there.
There we go. Wait, there we go.
Whoa! Fuck, go
There.
back. Okay, there we
Is
go.
that better?
That scared me.
That was actually badass. I did like that.
I was in the Matrix.
Oh, here, like, there's my Jabba diorama set again.
Mm-hmm. I love that bard in the background.
That was a fun one. Again, here's the Jabba diorama set with the Builda artifact from the Last Crusade, and I was just kind of trying to recreate a frame from that. Where was I going? So I don't have a ton of space, and I don't have a vast amount of disposable income, even though you never know it by the amount of toys I keep buying. But we all want to do these shots, and we all want dioramas. And I've said it before, I have a love-hate relationship with this company, but they do pretty decent quality stuff. It has its issues, but you can usually fake it. And it doesn't take up a ton of space because you can break it all down, and that is Extreme Sets.
Yeah.
Which is just, printed cardboard. And sometimes you have to run into issues where the cardboard's a little warped, or there's a nick, or how it fits together, or
crease or something. Yeah.
Yeah. And because it's printed cardboard, you don't get the texture that you would have with a real tangible 3D image. But that being said, they work, and they work in a pinch. So like, these are two buildings, and you get them far enough in the background, you get them a little bit out of focus, and they have enough 3D elements built into them, even though you don't see like shadows playing through the brickwork or anything, that it's passable, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then for the ground,
if you're using a shallow depth of field, they work,
Yeah. For the ground, I did painted cork, black painted cork, to try and simulate asphalt texture. And then I did use Photoshop to get rid of the seams. That's what I Photoshopped in this. Otherwise, this is all Lightroom. And let me go to some of the. So this is also Extreme Sets. Not my favorite composition. I wish I had played around a little more, done a little different stuff. But I think it works for what it is. And I got the.
I gotta bring my sets over to your place, so you gotta come over here or something. We gotta do a little
swappage,
little play date, huh?
Yeah,
photography play date, huh?
That'd be fun. This one,
we
again,
have to play date though. Tell your wife I'm coming over. I'm having a play date.
I'm not proud enough. I'll call it a play date. This is actually a mixture of sets. So this is the Extreme Sets mansion. And like you can, if you're really looking at the windows, like you can see the
Mhm.
warping that I'm talking about. If you're just glancing at it, it's passable. Little bit of the aerosol atmosphere with that big 40-watt light blasting
Mhm.
through to give the light shafts. Um, Again, decent composition, not my favorite. I think I could have done better if I'd played around a little more. But I wanted depth on this one. So if you look like in that background, that is actually, let's see if I have a better shot of it. That is actually the McFarlane Bruce
Isn't it
Wayne.
right there? Right, yeah.
Yeah, but like not like the best shot of it, but that's the McFarlane Wayne Manor, Bruce Wayne's office
Mm.
Oh wow.
set. So, because I wanted a little more depth. It's like
Yeah.
let's open this up. Let's create more into that world. You can kind of see it in there.
Yeah, that's great.
And so like you can see right here, I put black foam core for the ceiling because I mean, even though this is brown, it's reflective, and so this big light coming in through the window is going to bounce and reflect and bring up the ambiance. And I didn't really want that. I wanted this light to be the main light source, and then there's this little Ulanzi that you can see to the right of the pillar that I think I had it at like 1%, that I just sort of skipped off the back wall
Mhm.
just to give like a little bit of a kick. And then I think I had a small front light, and then I had that light magnetized down on here. Oh yeah, I had to take this
I was
light.
on the floor too. So you're crouched down, huh?
Yeah, so the thing is I don't sit there and end up playing or doing as much as I can with these because my back starts to bug the crap out of me. Sometimes if our dining room table's cleaned off, I go set it up there and it's a little easier. Um, but you can see I had a little downlight going in Bruce Wayne's office, and then I had the big Ulanzi light coming through the window, and then I had this little loom cube with the snoot on it. Do you see my cursor moving around, or am I
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
okay? And I use that to put a little more of an accent on James Bond's face, just to kick his exposure up just a bit. Um, but that's getting into more complex.
No, I mean it all layers together,
Yeah, here's another one. Here's the mansion set again.
Mhm.
I tried practicing playing a little bit, foreground, getting some stuff in the foreground, getting Mikey, having the Jaded Toys Chester Cheetah, bonking him on the head.
Yeah.
Um, tried to. I put tracing paper behind because I knew I was gonna quote unquote burn out the window. I didn't really burn it out, but just give it a little accent. I wasn't going to create depth by, if I had like some plants or something that I could have raked the light through and made
Mhm.
it look like you're looking outside. But another thing I was trying to do was, there's a little door right here. So I put a little light under there just to get that little kick, like you're walking by and you'd see in your own house. And I've been playing with that a little bit more, just ways to simply create some depth. I took this picture last night. This one's has a little bit more Photoshop just to make Mega Man look like he's sliding and Ken look like he's kicking a little more. The fun thing about this, most of the stuff I shoot is probably like 35 millimeter to 70 millimeter. I'm borrowing a kit lens from a friend so that I've just been messing around with that because it's a very sharp lens. But I have this whole, as I said earlier, I have this whole set of older vintage Nikon manual focus glass. And this was actually a 15 mil. And it's not a fisheye, as you can see. It's a rectilinear, super wide angle lens. But it let me get really, really close because the wider you are, the closer the focus tends to be. Your minimum focus, which is how close you can get your focal plane to the subject and still keep it sharp. So I was able to get like super up on these guys, but you'll see like this particular extreme set has this roll-up door which you can open. So I added a little extra Velcro so I could only have it. I had it open just a hair, and I put actually one of the wood walls from the mansion set behind that, probably like 2 feet. And then I just put one of the little Ulanzi lights in there just to like kick a little accent, motivate a little warm light coming through there, since everything else was a cooler nighttime light. And that's something else you guys can do when messing around with your photography, is mixing color temperatures, right? If you go watch movies, especially nowadays, there's a lot of mixing of warm and cool. It's like it's a very nice contrast.
That's what I was saying with my the Spider-Man shot with Uncle Ben. So I had the foreground characters all in like kind of hot orange lighting, and then in the back that cool blue lighting from the black light.
Yeah, and it does wonders, man. It does a lot of like, here. I can't remember. I think I just did daylight, and then I did like a teal, because that was a trick. Last Crusade was shot on film, and back when light was all still tungsten, so you either had daylight balanced or you had tungsten balanced. And the trick they did here was they shot, oh god, I always get it backwards, so I'm gonna look like I don't know what I'm talking about. They shot
fake fan alert,
tungsten balanced, and then when they do the daylight, it looks even bluer. Now I'm either right or I have it backwards, and you shoot daylight and the tungsten. It's one of the two, but it was a trick that they used, and it was a trick that they used in this movie to make the Grail Knight look a little bluer and more washed out. If you go back and watch it, like he has his own blue top light.
Yeah,
and they may have used a gel as well, a color gel in front of the lens, but I'm pretty sure the bait, because it's a very subtle tweak. I'm just trying to see what else I have where I'm really bad about taking behind the scenes shots. Oh yeah, here's the one with. So this one, because I was shooting dark, I actually used white bounce for most of it. I didn't do a lot of negative fill. And then you can just see these shots, like when I get a new figure. This was done on my iPhone, and it's 3-point lighting, or might even be 2-point lighting. I do a backlight, and I do a key light, and I might have like a small fill. But it's very simple. It's a very, it's a good way to start practicing. Yeah, here's one of those shots I never posted because I could never get it processed the way I wanted. And I really wish I could
worth
have.
revisiting,
Yeah, well, it's that thing of not being good at Photoshop. So like it was trying to get the muzzle flashes. And I just like there. Did not work. Especially the bullet hits. I was able to get the stand out pretty easily to try and get more of a dynamic look of him getting hit, but overall this was a fail.
This is where like some of the practical stuff can be good too. There's plenty of like blood effect you can get from
it's a funny thing is because of this shot, and that ended up being a more successful looking composition to me. Because of this shot, I have become more open to using effects pieces. It's not something I've ever it's not something I've been a fan of because it doesn't look real. And I want things to look real. But sometimes, or I'm becoming more open to the mind of, okay, well, it's not real and it is toys, and so there's nothing wrong with having a toy effect.
So
to help accentuate.
Yeah, like I would have done, you do the muzzle flares, but then just get a very, very small fill light like right on the muzzle flare to really make it pop, and then that way you get a little bit of the color on the scene from that too.
So I want to take over real quick because
Very quick spotlight.
one of real quick, Leanne, obviously a fan of the show, does amazing work, and just because like she does use those effects very well in her composition. I love Magnify. I had to put that photo in there.
Absolutely.
But, you know, like she uses it very well in her shots. So, yeah, just wanted to
good stuff. I'm gonna give her a follow.
Absolutely, she does some great stuff.
And then real quick, because we have them on our banner. Just real quick, Sergeant Bananas. Speck, you sent this to me. I love this shot. What is he shooting with there?
So that is a periscope lens, or it's a probe lens. Is what this one's called. It is a macro lens. I believe it's a 24 millimeter. It's by this Korean or Chinese optic company called Laowa, Laowa. And it's become a very popular, inexpensive, and by inexpensive I mean inexpensive for professionals, where everything is six figures. Fuck. We just had a brownout, so if you hear the chirping, I gotta go turn off the alarm system real quick. So anyway, it's a macro lens, so it's designed to have super close focus, but it's designed as this probe so that you can get it into small spaces like this model car and achieve these kinds of shots. So I saw this shot posted today, and I totally forgot about Mr. Sergeant Bananas, and just looked at this shot and was just like, God, this is a perfect shot. Like,
that's amazing right there.
Yeah. I mean, that's a great shot too, but the prune face, the lower contrast, the use of fog, the use of rain. I'm sure the rain in the background is probably some Photoshop, and if it is, it's tremendous.
I think he uses a spray bottle, honestly.
He might, and if he does,
Johnny works pretty practically.
Well, I know there's a behind the scenes shot of this, and I know he did wet the car down. So you're right. He probably did have an actual spray bottle.
Yeah, there you see it.
Yeah,
he's got this little light called a hobo light, which is, I'm sure it's a great light. It's kind of a name kitschy, like, you know, it's supposed to look retro-y, so they charge a little more for it, type of deal.
I know what you mean.
It looks cool. It looks good. They may have even given it to him to feature with his work. Like, who knows? And you can tell, I think that the thing in the right with the power button on, it's probably like a little hazing machine, if I had to guess. But I mean, it's just a great shot. And it's one of those things where you look at the setup and you look at what's actually in the frame, and all it needs is a little bit of background. You have the interior of the car, which is providing this really fantastic foreground with the guns and everything. And then he just did this awesome pose with this new Mezco figure. And that combined with the texture and the sculpting in the face and the jacket and the rain and everything, like it's a gorgeous shot, and it was processed gorgeously.
Yeah, I love that. And then we did do a Shooting the Galaxy. You sent these over real quick. I just love that.
Matthew Cohen, I want to say his name is.
Yeah, he's awesome.
He's great. Yeah, he's actually on staff at Hasbro, so he's done all of the diorama stuff.
But the thing is like, I tried to pick a lot of the shots that I sent over, with the exception of that. I love that shot. I just love it.
Yeah.
I tried to pick his personal photography that I assume he either does at home or he uses the studio when it's not being used for work shoots.
Yeah.
but he just does some really great stuff, and like I'm jealous because Extreme Sets just like sent him a box full of goodies and was like, here, have these, because they knew that he was going to shoot them and post them, and he's made a ton of use out of that warehouse setup. And then he's been doing a fun series right now using the retro A New Hope figures in a similar hallway like this, low angle, diffused top light, and just doing like single images down the hallway.
I remember when everyone was going after these GTP toys space walls.
Yeah, dude, there's so much of this stuff I would love to have. I haven't done any Star Wars photos because I don't have any space backdrops.
Yeah.
But and that's the thing of getting out of my own way. Star Wars doesn't always take place on these sci-fi looking sets.
Yeah.
But for some of the things I want to do, I'd love to have them, or I'd love to have, like that resin tube thing that you had Vaporoni wrenching on. Like that would be fun for something. I don't know what, but
well,
I'm sure
we'll work something out. I'd love to see what we can do together with all that stuff. I got a ton of them. There's in storage right now.
Nice. Yeah.
If I can, I'd like to set. I'm still, as I said, in the middle of my setup and everything here. So if I can use them as shelf displays, I think that would be cool. But for the most part, I have them just set aside in their boxes for when I want to use them for photography. I use them during October, but it is a pain in the ass to have to take them out and put them back. And I'd rather just find like a permanent kind of home for them, so that whenever I am ready to just shoot, I can just go for it.
That's the thing. Like for me, it's like a production. I have to take a whole bunch of stuff out, and then I have to shoot with it, and then it's midnight, and I got to get up in the next morning, and then I got to put everything away so that I don't get yelled at because shit's hanging out there.
It is not free real estate.
Did not put in here. So I forgot. Anyway, like one of the things. There we go again.
Whoa. Okay.
Whoa. Stop sharing me for 1 second so I can find something.
Yeah, I got one more I wanted to show here real quick. This was going back to changing the color temperatures depending on the scene here. This was one where they're supposed to be like they're in front of a TV, like playing video games, right? A lot of forced perspective right here too, because these are obviously 1/12 scale figures, the Pink Skulls Chaos Club, but for the backdrop for this, it's the 5 points, 3 3/4 inch scaled backdrop that they come with in that set. So I had to put this like kind of deep in the background, not even that deep actually, but just enough to kind of fill the frame. Again, looking at it through the viewfinder, and then with forced perspective, make it look like they're actually like physically in that room. But you can see how tiny that little space is compared to the actual figures. And then to make it look like the TV is actually like projecting light onto them, the Ulanzi light is literally sitting right on top of the TV and just kind of bouncing to make it look like it's the TV itself creating light. So that took a lot of trial and error. And then to really create the difference between the foreground light and the background light. Obviously the background light is just using some of the, I think at this point I had I guess it would be just the room light or one of the other lights that I was showing here to just light the background separately. But I had to also just hide a lot with the close perspective and the way that they're filling out the frame right here too. It's obviously a small couch, so only 2 of them fit on there, but the other guy's just kind of perched there. And again, trying to hide the back as much as I can while still being able to see and make it look like they're in this set, That was a lot of trial and error. I'm not even like fully happy with how it came out, but it worked, I think I used the black light here on top as well to make the their shirts pop a little bit more, since there's that little bit of white on there to help sell the TV light effect onto them. Just trick photography, that's all it really is at the end of the day.
Yeah, actually, I've got 2 small examples of that. So let's go back to me real quick. Boom. crap. There we go. This guy. Well, going back to your point, so to make it try and look like the fireplace was emitting light, this fireplace came and it actually had a little LED in it, but it turns out the output on it is garbage.
Huh.
So I had to hide one of the Ulanzi lights just on the other side of this and try and position it to make it look like fire was coming out of the mantle and not just the side of the room. And that was sort of this bundle of wood was actually pushed a lot farther back into the room than it appears. So there's that forced perspective trick again.
Yeah.
And that required a little bit of finagling, but I thought it worked pretty well. And then this shot that I took a couple weeks ago. So here's a little fun, like super easy. This is a 2-walled room with a floor that you can get. I think it's 8 inches by 8 inches by 8 inches. And you can go get it from Michael's for $13. And then, whatever discount coupons they have going on at the time, right? So that's a simple little easy to start with diorama. 2 white walls and a white floor. And then you can do whatever you want with it. Paint it. I tried to break it up by I've recently been trying to get more and more bits and pieces for dioramas. So I got a couple rugs, I got a couch, the TV. Since it was all cheese and stuff, I took the TMNT accessory set, painting and museum puttied that on the wall. And then this lamp back here actually does have an LED in it and can turn on if you want to use it in photography. But you'll see right here, you'll see the slight blue cast with the shadow. And also at Michael's, they just have these little wired single LED lights on a little clicker button. So I actually did a bad job. You can see the cable right there if you're really looking. I just museum puttied that on the front of the TV and turned that on, which just gave like a nice little breakup on the back wall.
Yeah. Yeah, that looks good.
Yeah.
It's casting a shadow onto the wall there.
Yeah. So it's little tricks like that, things you start picking up. But
there's a lot of stuff that, like, at least that I'll do, that I put way too much effort into, but it doesn't actually, like, you don't actually see that that's what it's happening. Like,
right.
In terms of like fill light and stuff on this one that I just put up. This is actually a sequence of 4 photos.
Oops.
Bobby.
Yep.
This was a 4-photo sequence I did. It's meant to be a dumb internet meme called Loss. It's the classic 4-panel web comic, and I recreated it with Doc Nocturnal here. And this is why the blacklight is kind of my little cheat code, because a lot of the time I feel like it ends up adding a good fill light that's just subtle enough, but not necessarily over the top. So pretty much all of like the window light on all of these is using the black light. You can see it right here. And for this particular photo in the sequence, you don't even actually see the window, but it is giving just a little bit of blue tint onto like the side of Doc right here and right here. And then you do get to see it a little bit more in that window, and you see it in the back right here where he's coming through the door. It's just to keep that lighting like consistent. I feel like it was a good temperature of night light, of like it's dark outside, but there's still like a moonlight, and it's not really like necessarily visible other than in this first photo right here, but it's still where it is present. It's still, I feel adds a good contrast to the overall very orange lighting of the set, which I think was literally just my room light. There's no actual like lobby lights or anything like that onto the set. I just liked the temperature of it already, and then I felt like the black light just added that little bit of like contrast, like opposite side of the color wheel to it. And you don't see it. If you don't know what you're looking at, you don't even see it. But to me, it just adds that little bit of extra depth to the photo. And then even in this one, where you don't even get to see the window in the final frame, just the idea of it being consistent, kind does a lot for me personally.
Yeah, it's a good little trick, and it speaks to another trick where oh fuck, that thing's gonna go off again.
And this is also, real quick, the same set, just arranged different ways depending on the scene. Like here, you know, the window's on one side, and it's the same, you know, 5 pieces just moved around to make it look like it's like different parts of the castle, like he's moving around it.
That's cool. Shit. All right.
I don't have. Hey, Bobby, you had it up. The shot of Chuckles taking out one of the twins.
Yes. Hold on 1 second.
Yeah.
So here's a fun thing, and this is something else that you can do. And again, it helps create depth. It helps break things up, because you know the hardest thing to light is a plain wall with no color, and there's a lot of tricks you can do to sort of break light up and colors or slashes or whatever. So this is quite obviously the Wayne Manor set. It's a great reusable, you know, checks a lot of boxes to make things work. And then I got these flooring decals from Michaels, so I put that on foam board, and then so this is just sitting on the flooring decals on the foam board. It's one back wall and like 2 half walls, right? So you can see down in the bottom of the frame, there's this light with little barn doors on it. And everything in here is tungsten balanced light. But this little light right here, down at the bottom with the barn doors, is daylight. And you can see it shooting through and casting some shadows on the back wall with a slighter bluer daylight tinge to it.
You get that.
No one knows whether or not there's a window to the left of frame. But because of how it was lit, by all intents and purposes, there's a window there. And that's movie magic right there, right? Like that's, you know, like that's, I take a lot of what I learn and implement on film sets and realize, hey, I can translate this to photography. And it's not just a cinematography thing. I'm sure that there's hundreds of photographers that do this having never set foot on a film set. But
right.
But that's a thing, right? It adds change and depth and contrast and color contrast. And it just helped make the image pop a little bit more to sit there and say, you know what if there was a window? This needs a window. This needs some daylight coming in. And then that helped say like, oh, there's some shadows. Oh, and people, I've actually had questions about that. They were like, oh, was there a window? Were you shooting next to a window? What were you doing? It's just like, no, I faked it. Like all it takes is thinking outside of the box. And unfortunately, a lot of times I'm a person that thinks very linear.
Yeah.
And when I work with people that think non-linear, it always blows my mind. And I always try and remember, like, I got to think like this. I got to remember to, like, once I'm locked into something, take a step back and what can I do different? What can I look at from a different perspective? What can I add that somebody else might have added that I'm missing that's not so straightforward?
I hope we got a lot of that tonight.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, I look at all these people's photos and it's inspiration, pure and simple.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. No, there's a lot of stuff for me.
You can actually see right here in the behind the scenes, there's a Black Series box. I think it was I just bought Sabine Wren. And again, I didn't have a flag and I didn't have all that poster board that I have now. And I have this Lume Cube, which has the rubber white diffuser on it, but I needed even more diffused light. So I threw white tissue over it to knock it down even more because I didn't have any diffusion handy. And then I needed to cut the light because I didn't need it spilling everywhere. And I happened to have that box right there.
Yeah.
So I was able to like cut that light down to where I needed it, which I think it was just hitting Chuckles' face a little bit more. And then between the diffusion that was on it naturally and then just adding white tissue, because it's white tissue, it's thick, it's soft, like it really softens that light up just enough. Like
one of my first like light setups was pretty much a lamp, just like this one here. If I can get it into frame, it was like my regular desk lamp, and I put a coffee filter over the front of it.
Yep. Yeah, it's pretty amazing what you can do to fake things.
Mhm.
Like even though these Ulanzi lights, I think on sale you can get these for about 20 a pop, which for a full RGB bicolor and even with the video effects or whatever is actually a pretty good deal.
Yeah, I gotta get me some. I need more.
The big
like,
one I have.
I love having these just because you can, for just standard light, it's kind of bright right now. Let me lower it. You can get 5 different brightness levels, and then you can get 5 different like color temperatures. That on its own does a lot for me, where I don't need the actual like gels for color. It's good for the scene, but that's why I need those LEDs with more RGB lighting for that little bit of fill.
Yeah,
I'd rather just keep these for like standard lighting, just to change temperature, and then have something like that for colored fill.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
All
Bobby,
right,
give me
Jen.
yours. Let me have them.
What?
Just on the arm. I'll take those off you.
What? Take what off me?
The Ulanzi lights. I'm just kidding.
No. Oh,
Didn't.
like, no. I like my Ulanzi lights.
So do we have anybody left watching? Anybody have any?
I think we've gone deep into the nitty and the gritty.
We have.
And everybody's dozing off now.
Right. No, that's like no.
So what happens when you get a couple of industry guys, a couple of gearheads together, we just start talking shop and we lose track of time.
Well, it's one of those things where like this is one of those shows where I really wanted to highlight both, the giant, and probably because you brought them, and luckily you showed them like the up and comers. There's a lot within there.
Mm-hmm.
And Todd's still here. I like this. Just another time. Yeah, I get it. But we appreciate you sticking with for this long, because there is a lot to it. Like y'all both said, there is an art to the lighting, the staging, everything. Specs having issues with your alarm.
We're having roving brownouts because of the rainstorms, which is funny because we didn't have any problems where I live for the last 3 days when it was pouring, but now that it's over with and there's just like some light sprinkling going on, we've had, I don't know, the power's been surging, and when it surges, the damn alarm system likes to sit there and say, "Hey, listen to me, something happened."
I had my old place had a fridge that would do that. Whenever the power went out, it would just start beeping to tell you, "Hey, the power went out," even when the power was back. Like, okay,
power's on. Thank you.
But anyway, if you are new to toy photography and you want to, pick up some tips and tricks, I'm gonna be on my book Nice Shit right now and plug the ACBA Facebook group, Articulated Comic Book Art, on Facebook. It's our actual kind of it's sort of the home of ACBA. It's where the community started out, and it's where we pull a lot of the photos that we feature on the Instagram. And it's a good place to post your photos and get your critique from people in the comments, which is what a lot of the community is based on, is really just helping each other with tips and tricks. You post your photo and people will critique, and you have those discussions in the comments. You get to post alongside a lot of the people who are big in the community, up and comers. It's a good mix of people there, and you get a lot of like real-time feedback on your photos. We have a couple of sister groups to go along with it. There's one called Diostructure, if you're just strictly interested in learning how to make dioramas and interact with diorama makers, either to make commissions or to get tips and tricks. It's called Diostructure, also a Facebook group, great one to join. There's also we can put some links for you here. It's at a moment. We also have another sister group called The Grind, which is strictly just, here's a photo I have like in progress. Let me get tips and tricks to like get it to where it needs to be before you post it on the main page, where you would hopefully, do your final product to get it featured. There's the ACBA fan page, which is just where you see the photos that are featured. And of course, Articulated Comic Book Art on Instagram, which a lot of the artists that I featured, have had some great features there on Instagram. So I'll drop those links here in just a moment. But yeah, definitely the ACBA group page is kind of your real time training ground to either see other people's photos and see what critique they get, or to go ahead and post yours, what you think is your finished product, and then people will let you know where you can improve it from there. Whether that's your lighting could be better here, or your posing could have been better here in terms of like maybe getting a foot slightly flatter on the ground. All those little details I think really serve to make your overall photo better. I know there's a lot of people who are very good at like the photography aspect of things, but maybe not as good at like the posing of the figures and stuff to get the posing as realistic, and it all kind of comes down to like the direction of your photo too. If your posing isn't off, then it's the equivalent of not having like a great stunt coordinator where like something looks a little off in a certain fight scene. So definitely
That's the thing that drives me.
We also have a Discord page where a lot of people post their stuff in progress. So I'll post some links here for you down south.
That's what drives me nuts is I'll snap some shots. I'll think, okay, I think maybe I've got it. I'll pop the card. I'll go in my computer. I'll start looking through them. And then I'll be like, fuck, their knee isn't touching the ground the right way. There's a gap there. And then you got to decide, all right, do I go back and fix it? Which, could start a domino effect. Or do I just live with it the way it is and know that people are probably going to see that and like critique it? Usually I'll go back and fix it, but sometimes there are times where it's like I'm not looking for that. I'm looking at other things, and I'll take the whole thing down, and then I'll see it the next day, and I'll be like, no, like and that is never fun. You said the ACBA?
I've done that so many times, and anytime I've gone back to like, not anytime, but usually my indicator for like, all right, I'm done is when that domino effect happens. I'm like, whatever happens. I'm just not setting this shit up again.
Yeah. Especially when you get that perfect pose and it took you forever to get them to hold that pose. And moving them could not only knock them down, but knock everybody around them down.
It's not letting me post the link in the comment. That makes sense. But down south, hit me up on Instagram at Fobster360. I'd be happy to send you to all the links that we've discussed here.
You said that one ACBA one was Facebook?
Yeah, it's mostly Facebook groups. We do have a Discord too.
I'm an old man. I have Discord. I just never get on it.
Yeah.
I was on it for a bit and I just hopped off it.
Discord's the shit.
You kids and your MTV and
down south, send me a DM on Instagram. I'll send you all those links for sure. And that goes for anybody in the chat that's looking to jump in the toy photography arena. Be happy to direct you towards the ACBA Facebook group and all of our sister groups. Again, just to interact with all the artists doing this in real time. I mean, that's literally how I came up, dude. Just discovering the group and seeing people posting and lurking for a while before I was like, all right, I want to try. If I go like early into my Instagram, I mean, I've definitely found my style and my voice, so to speak, through the years and years of being at this,
Yeah.
All righty. Well, we have reached the 2 hour and 18-minute mark.
Love it.
Because I have an early morning.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna cut the show now.
We got Work More or Less just jumped on. Hey, Jason.
Hey, what's up, dude? Hey, thanks for joining us, man. We featured you a little bit earlier.
Yeah, love your stuff. Love it.
It's amazing. Replay group. Let's do that. We kind of wax poetic. There we go. On your work, Jason. It's amazing stuff. We'll have to have you on the show sometimes. Since you're watching, we'll have to have you on the show back on when we do another one of these toy photography episodes, which would be a lot of fun. And actually get more into like behind the scenes on a bunch of different stuff. All right. So that has been episode 151 our favorite toy photographers, or our favorite toy photography. Wait,
Sure.
did we mess up that title?
Oh, it doesn't matter.
Oh,
Maybe
it doesn't matter. Look, Speck, Fabio, and thank y'all for breaking down y'all's work. It was a lot of fun.
Thanks for having me,
getting-
dude. Thanks for a little late game edition.
Yeah.
coming on here.
Yeah, no worries at all. All right, that's it. Next week, I don't think we have anything planned. I think we're actually taking the week off for Valentine's Day because most of us are in a relationship, in a committed relationship. They're actually going to be maybe,
over here. My schedule is wide open.
I don't know. Maybe we'll figure something out. If something pops up, then we'll do it. I know the week after, I think we're gonna do just almost like an ask us anything type show. We're just gonna be chilling with y'all. Ask us anything. We'll be opening up toys and just kind of shooting the shit. All right. For our Toy Kind of Mood, I am your host, Bobby Bear, and as always, we will see you in the toy aisle. And I'm gonna hit in now and see when exactly